where are we now? What we're going to do is we're going to look a little bit at the different roles within a negotiation. Do you remember earlier I said that it would be a good idea if there were different roles that the negotiation team played? I said that if you're alone in a negotiation, it's tough. It's just tough to be alone in a negotiation. So here we've got two groups of 3 people. And these 2 groups of 3 people represent the different negotiation teams. Your team, their team. Yeah? Now obviously they're not going to come as well prepared as you are. So we'll just look at one of the negotiation teams, but in a very advanced negotiation culture, both teams will have all of these roles within their teams. So, do you remember a film called The Highlander? You ever see The Highlander? What's the famous line from that film? There can only be one. That's what they said. Yeah? And in the negotiation, that is very true. There can only be one lead negotiator. Okay, so let's say that's this guy here. The lead negotiator is the person who is able to change the proposal, to make deals, to give discounts. This is the lead negotiator. This is the person who runs the negotiation. There can only be one. The other 2 guys are there, but you can't negotiate with them. So you can't change deals, you can't do contracts. You can speak about anything you like, but you can't change the deal with anybody else than the lead. And that's critical for the negotiation process. And critical for them to understand that they're speaking with one person. So what do the other guys do? Yeah? Well, one of the roles is what we call a summarizer. This is not their only name, but it's one of the roles that they play, and maybe, arguably, the most important role. The summarizer is the person who makes sure that they're remembering everything that gets said. They may be taking all of the notes, all of the agreements as they come up, and they summarize. They say, when everything gets a bit too much, they say, hang on guys, let me just stop for a second. I want to summarize the last 3 or 4 points that we've made. Have we agreed to this? Have we agreed to this? Have we agreed to this? Good. Now let's move on. So one of the key skills of this person is breaking the flow of the negotiation and summarizing everything that has happened to that stage. Okay? However, they have other skills as well. And one of them is what we call the chairman. They are the chairperson of the negotiation, which means they're responsible for the flow of the negotiation. So if the chairperson or the summarizer thinks everybody needs a break, they say, guys, let's take a break. If they think something needs to be summarized, they say, let's summarize here. If they think the temperature is getting too hot and these guys are starting to argue too much, they will say, hang on guys, calm down a second. They will pour the oil on the troubled water. Yeah? And they will lower the temperature within the room. So this person has a role. You could also call them the facilitator or the moderator of the negotiation. They're responsible for the flow and the dynamic within the process itself. If you like, you could say that these guys are responsible for the topic and the problem. These guys are responsible for the people and the relationship and the process of the negotiation itself. Okay? Our third person is called the observer. Yeah? And the observer has a very interesting role. The observer observes what? Body language. They observe the reactions to proposals or to sentences or questions. They basically keep their eyes and their ears open and observe what is happening. Yeah, why would they want to do this? Well, the lead is very likely to make a proposal. These guys will react to this proposal. And these reactions may not be verbal reactions. They may be hidden or semi-hidden reactions. And so in an ideal negotiation setup, the observer will have the opportunity to go offline with the lead and the summarizer and give them his or her feedback on what they have observed and what they think is going on in the heads of these guys. Yeah? So it's a very subjective skill, the job of observation. Yeah? They're saying, for example, when you made that proposal, this guy over here, he started rubbing the back of his neck like that. And that could be, he could be angry, he could be tired, I don't know, but it looked a bit weird. Yeah? When you made that proposal, they all moved in their chair. That either means they don't like it or they do like it, but it is not neutral. I wonder what's going on there. Yeah? So the job of the observer is a very, very intangible one and quite a critical one as well. The reason that we have 3 different negotiation roles is because you cannot expect one person to run all of these roles at the same time. It's too much for one person. The lead negotiator should be focusing on the topic, the summarizer should be focusing on the flow of the negotiation and the environment, and the observer can sit back and watch everything going on there. Yeah? So this is the principle of having different behavioral roles within the negotiation, and it also fits very nicely with our hit list, because in the process of preparing for a negotiation, you will want to make sure different people have their input on the preparation phase. So ideally, 3 people, the 3 people in the negotiation, would each write up their own hit list before bringing those 3 things together. Not do it together, but do it alone. But that's really already rocket science for most companies. Most companies never get to the stage where they can get the 3 negotiation partners each to do this homework on their own. Yeah? That's already way beyond what I've seen and experienced where I've worked. However, it is realistic to ask 3 different people to write up 3 lists of tradables on their own, and then bring these tradables to the table for the purpose of making a good list, 8 or 9 or 10 tradables, because everybody can think of 4 or 5 or 6. You bring that list together and you come out with a very good workable list of tradables. The lead negotiator themselves will be responsible for putting together the other preparation pieces of the hit list and creating all of the materials that need to be created. Yeah? So our negotiation roles are very important. Now, we said there can only be one. Very often, one of the big problems in negotiations is that these 2 guys have got similar levels of power within the organization. One will be the key account manager, the other one will be their boss. Yeah? And so, obviously, if your boss is in the room with you, these guys over here think, well, why don't we just negotiate directly with the boss? Yeah? And the boss, unless they've been trained not to, they will say, yes, you can negotiate with me. Yeah? And so this is a communication conflict that needs to be solved and thought about before the negotiation happens. So the boss and the key account manager sit down together, and the key account manager says, listen, boss, I want you to be the summarizer and the facilitator of this negotiation. I'll deal with the content. And the boss says, okay, I will not touch the topic. I will only do the flow. Yeah? And those roles need to be crystal clear before going in. So there's a lot of teamwork involved in running a good negotiation. The other angle of this principle is the following. If you call your customer before the negotiation and say, dear customer, we're looking forward to this negotiation, we will be bringing 3 people. What will they do? They will bring 3 people too, or 4, or 5, just to put 1 or 2 more people than you in. Why is this good? This is good because our 3 people can now set the scene and the tone for these 3 people, so that these guys will look at what these guys are doing and they will naturally start copying and doing roughly the same. One lead negotiator will come out, one process-oriented and summarized type, yeah, and somebody sitting in the background. Yeah? So that's another advantage of this negotiation style. Very importantly, though, you do not say, you know, the summarizer at the beginning of the negotiation. He'll introduce everybody. He'll say, hello, everybody. My name's Jack. My role in this negotiation is to manage the flow. And if we need to go for a cigarette break and coffee, then I'll say so at regular intervals. This is John. He's the lead negotiator. He's the only one here who is authorized to make changes to the agreement. And this is Joe, and he's our technical expert who can give us information about the project. You do not say he's the observer, yeah? Because if you say he's the observer, then everybody gets really nervous and says, what is he observing? Yeah? This information can come later. The observer can tell people that he's there to observe the flow, but generally speaking, that's kept in the background. Professional negotiators know all about it anyway, but for those who aren't, we kind of keep that information on the side when necessary. Okay? So, we've said a number of things in the process of speaking about the negotiation roles. And one critical thing that we've mentioned is that the summarizer will stop the process to do summaries. Yeah? Within a 40-minute negotiation, there should be at least 3 summary stages. Within a 5-hour negotiation, there should be multiple stages where the summarizer says, whoa, guys, let me just make sure we're all on the same page. Yeah? Because it gets complex and agreements get made that then get forgotten again. It's very, very critical to make sure that that keeps up. So the summarizer is responsible for breaking the flow with summaries, but also breaking the flow with breaks. Yeah? How can these guys speak to each other unless they take a break? They have to go out of the room. They have to take 5 minutes or so of coffee time and cigarette time. So sometimes it's good to have a summarizer who either is a chain smoker, that helps, but that's not really politically correct these days, yeah? Or he has a weak bladder and needs to go to the toilet every 30 minutes. That's the perfect kind of summarizer. If you don't have either the weak bladder or the chain smoker, then you have a summarizer who simply, on a regular basis, says, guys, I've had enough, I need a glass of water, and we need to speak about everything that we've heard. Let's take 5 minutes. But you will be surprised to know that this simple thing that we suggest as being a very good one is actually the most difficult thing for any negotiator to do. The simple process of asking for a break is very, very difficult for somebody in the negotiation to do, because these guys don't want to do it. They want to move on, move on, move on. They know that time is their friend, not yours. They know that by heaping on the pressure, they'll get a better deal. So there's a lot of stress involved with actually asking for the break and forcing this break to go through. But it is critical for the process of observation and of making sure that the proposal is moving in the right direction.